Sheena Ringo. We are continuing our track by track listen through to her debut album, Musai Moratorium. And, I am really excited to check the next song out because so far the journey's been really interesting. I've really liked kind of how we've gone through these shades of concept, really talking about her experience. You can really feel the pre signed artists talking about how she's coming to the big city, how she's experienced so many things, the kind of the rage and also the catharsis, all of these different feelings. But this brings us on to one which is perhaps a little bit of an interesting aside. So this song is, Sid and Daydreams is the name in English, but in Japanese it's called Sid to Hakochumu, which kind of intrigued me. I was like, what is Sid? Who is Sid? So I did do a little bit of research into this one, and I read that apparently that references Sid Vicious, the punk singer. Now, I have some familiarity, obviously, with punk music from that era, but it's not my era. It's not something I'm super familiar with, and I've got to be honest that, like with, I know this is a contentious topic, but with a lot of the genres, the formative years I find interesting rather than the best stuff. Metal. It's interesting to hear early metal, but it's not something I'd really listen to these days. Punk. Interesting to hear early punk. Don't really listen to it so much these days. So, because it wasn't really my generation, I'm not super familiar with it, but I looked through a couple of things and I immediately kind of remembered some of the stories I'd heard about how he had a very, I believe the word that would be used these days is a very toxic relationship with his partner. I also think he was the one who, he was he the one who was associated with the fashion designer, and this whole thing connected. I think it was him who's connected with like a fashion designer or something. Anyway, so there's a bunch of stuff, and anyway, I don't know enough about it to really go into much detail. But what I gathered from what I saw was I got a couple of sentences which basically said that the topic of this is very much that she's kind of using Sid Vicious as a little bit of a metaphor, an allegory for, I'm guessing, kind of her views on relationships and stuff. But Sid and Daydream, so I'm guessing this is going to be kind of passing a little bit in and out of her talking about reality and talking about this metaphor. I'll do my best to pick up the lyrics as I go. Thank you, by the way. There's a lot of people who always say, Howard, you should check out the lyrics. You should check out the lyrics. I'll say once again, I do basically understand the majority of what I'm hearing when I listen to the lyrics, but my Japanese is kind of at the point where I do miss some of the nuance. And sometimes reading the lyrics helps, sometimes it really doesn't. Some nuance really requires that you understand the kanji and stuff. But anyway, I'm going to get into this one, and I'm kind of intrigued to know, is it going to be punk by genre? It's over 4 minutes long, so no idea what to expect genre-wise, but yeah, let's jump in, have a little listen. So far this album's been amazing, and the one thing that I will add is a big factor that I have been greatly enjoying about this, and that I often say is synonymous with a lot of my favourite artists, is the fact that every mood isn't just a different mood in a song. She actually forms the songs around the mood. So if it's a really angry, cathartic song, then you get a proper angry, cathartic arrangement. If it's something a little bit more thoughtful, you get that. If it's something, it's got a little bit of a strange sort of cultural twinge, you get a little bit. Every single song feels like the actual arrangement is designed around it. And that's something, it's certainly not unique to Sheena Ringo. But I think it's something that tends to come up a lot with a lot of my favourite artists who tend to be songwriters and multi-instrumentalists. This seems to be like a through line with a lot of my favourite artists, is they usually play a lot of their own instruments, they usually understand their songs, arrange them from the floor up, and it's not like they're thinking about a band. They're usually thinking about, right, I'm going to make a song, this is what's in my head. So this is actually what I've been enjoying about her a lot. So I'm hoping that more importantly than the lyrics, that the music will convey the feeling, because I think so far, to be honest, with most of these songs, this is what I really like. You don't really even have to know the lyrics. And I say this when people talk about, lyrics are so important. It's like, yeah, but sometimes you can convey a lot more with the song. Because I would argue that you could listen to any of these songs without knowing the lyrics at all and get a very clear idea of what the feeling is. And that, to me, that's the sign of a really good songwriter. Is, that you don't even need the lyrics. But there you go. I'm still going to pay attention to the lyrics anyway. Let's jump in. Let's check this out. I'm intrigued. I thought I'd just put in that little rant just to show you guys I'm appreciating the album and give you a little bit of an idea of where I'm at. Let's go. I like it. Lo-fi chiptune thing going on.
昔描いた
looks more Daydream than Sid so far.
私は別の人間でジャニスイアンを自らと思い込んでた現実には本物がいると分かっていたここんとこ描く夢の
Yeah.
私は私だから
That sort of crushed out lo-fi bass is really
欲
cool.
望も何も区別がつかなくなってた現実でもほとんど不確かだあなたの髪を切らなきゃ真っ黒なその目が私の目に光を打てば呼吸ができる今は帰らない影など
That change was interesting, but again, we're in this swing rhythm. She loves these swing rhythms. That's cool.
手錠されたままで私にひざまずいた
I'm loving this kind of contrast between these two sections.
一人きりじゃ
So far, I definitely prefer this
に
bit.
なるため誰かにそっと寄りかかるのであろうあなたは私じゃなくちゃ真っ白なほっぺたに透き通る小さな雨だれを落としてしまう
Again, that walking bass.
今すぐ鍵を開けてあげるあなたには全て許しちゃう
That is nice. I love how you're using a lot of the same sounds, but now smoothing over it, making it much more spaced out.
あなたの髪を切らなきゃ真っ黒なその目が
That's really good.
私
That
の
really
目
good.
に光を打てば
I love the way
呼
that's
吸
working.
ができる今は帰らない影など全く嫌だけれどあなたには殺されてもいいわ
That second guitar in there is really cool as well. The layering is good. Oh, don't fade out! God damn it. I was really enjoying that. God damn it, don't put a fade out. Alright, I tell you what, I'm not gonna hold you. This is probably one of my favourite songs so far. I'm gonna have to go back and listen to the whole album, but this is up there. This is up there. This is a real trial for top song of the album. I will say yes. What I did pick up from the lyrics was pretty dark, but there's a lot more to break down about this. Now, the first thing that really takes me and just I adore about the whole arrangement is, once again, it does that thing that I kind of was talking about in the beginning, in that this feels to me like a songwriter's song. There is not a single thing I can really hear in the musicianship here that couldn't be played by like a decent high school student. There is nothing super complicated going on instrumentally, and yet the music is so interesting and so engaging. I mean, when we look at the verses, they're in this kind of spaced out area, and then you get into the choruses, and that's where everything comes in and it's rocking. That contrast is interesting enough, but if we look at what each section's doing and how it flows between them, that's really where the song gets so much of its quality. So when we start with that verse, it's in this kind of spaced out territory, but it almost seems a little bit tongue-in-cheek. Like a lot of the sounds are kind of lo-fi. Again, you've got this weird sort of distorted bass. You've got these kind of smashing glass sounds being played in there. It doesn't sound like they're really trying to do something creepy and all spaced out. It kind of sounds like a bit of a tongue-in-cheek video game idea of a spaced out sound. And that almost gives it a kind of eeriness to itself. It's interesting, but all the sounds are very sharp. They're very close. They're not overly covered in effects. They're just kind of interesting sounds. So if we listen to that again, like you got that little synthesizer there. It's a very dry sound. Even with the harp is not, you can tell it's not supposed to sound like a real harp. It sounds like a video game harp. It's kind of got a lo-fi quality to it. Got like a theremin sound on the other side. Already these three sounds very interesting and interacting. Then you get this crashed out bass. So the sounds are more weird and unusual and interesting than massively atmospheric. The atmosphere you're getting here is from thinking, wow, these sounds are unusual. This is an unusual mixture of sounds, rather than it being something which is overly, it's not trying to do soundscaping. It's just kind of giving you a lot of odd sounds. So you kind of feel slightly on, okay, this is all very gentle. It's all very subtle, but at the same time, it's a bit weird. It's a bit weird. And I like that. I like the fact that everything works together, but there's just this kind of weirdness, this slight wrongness to the sounds that are being used. And she's singing so comfortably over the top. It kind of gives you the... it's perfect for the tone that she's setting up in the lyrics as well. In that it's like, you kind of know this song is in a slightly mentally unstable place where we're going to crash out at any moment. And then when we do eventually get into the rock bit, this is really interesting. So everything comes in, we get the rock part, but have a little listen to how it goes. So you've got the guitars are very punky, a lot of screeching, a lot of like just playing like a punk, I guess. The bass is just walking around, and that's kind of what's adding the majority of the music to this part, because the drums, I think Sheena Ringo was one of the drummers on this as well. Drums, very simple kind of swing beat, nothing complicated going on there. The bass, again, it's walking, but it's very simple, kind of anyone can play it. The guitar's just kind of like strumming punk style. It's great because it gives you all the impact. It's interesting because of the bass and because of the swing rhythm, the 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3. It's got that kind of feeling going on, but it's not complicated because it's not supposed to be. It's just, this is the bit where it gets louder. And again, this is why I feel like this is a songwriter's song. This is why I love this, is because, yeah, of course Sheena could play this. Of course Sheena Ringo can play her drums on this, because this is designed to be a song where the song itself does the heavy lifting. You don't need to play anything complicated here. You just have enough to make the point. So we get this. Nice melody as well. The claps help too, gives it a little bit of life, brings it back to reality a bit. Then we go back into the strange space. And I love how it does this. Now, so we get kind of a repeat, same thing, verse and chorus again. What I really like about this semi kind of bridge breakdown bit is it goes back to the verse. So we get the second chorus. But then when we go back to that, kind of back to the verse, we go back in a different key, different chord, but now you've got like strings, and her voice becomes much more reverby and much more held notes, and suddenly everything goes from this slightly eerie, dry sound, where you've got these very dry, close sounds, to now it suddenly sounds much more big, much more spaced out, much more dreamy, much more soundscaping. These are not just weird sounds anymore, it's actually supposed to sound weird and dreamy. So we're in a very different space suddenly. And it just kind of sets the mood differently. I mean, just that bit with so little going on there, it so clearly tells you what you're supposed to feel. It so clearly puts across the feeling that you're supposed to have. And I really like that. I like the fact that this bit has no lyrics in. And yet the feeling is so well conveyed. You know, that feeling of the sort of temporary serenity before everything goes back to the chaos of the chorus. It's so well conveyed just in the music. Absolutely love it. My only problem with it, they put a fade out at the end. Look, I know Japan got rid of fade outs later than most of the rest of the world. I know most of the rest of the world was getting rid of fade outs, and by the end of the 80s, they were mostly gone. You got such a well arranged song. I know a fade out is a technique. It's supposed to imply the kind of infinity of the song. You can get. Sheena Ringo could put in a good ending for this. It didn't need a fade out. That was my only downside, the fade out. And you can say what you want in the comments, I'm sure you will, but the fade out was the wrong choice. You shouldn't have gone with that. I think you could. Any proper ending is always better. You could end it with like a kind of a sudden ending that kind of leaves you like, oh, where did that go? Or you could end it with something where it spaces out into a really... You could even just have it disappear into reverb, fade into reverb or something. But just some kind of actual ending rather than an audio fade out. Would have been better. Still, 1999, Japan was still pretty heavy into the fade outs in 1999, but this song deserved better. I do know, this is another thing I saw, apparently it did get a full band version. I gotta be honest, I'd be interested to hear that, but... I'd be interested to hear that because, again, as a songwriter song, I'd be really interested to see how she reinterprets it. However, I think this version was so perfect to the way it is, it's kind of hard to know how it could be better. But maybe just be different. That'd be really cool. I know that it's been done again. I know there's alternate versions, so I'm kind of interested to check that out. But I really enjoyed this song. I thought this was great. This is one of my favourite ones so far. Is it a song I would say put it forward as a single? 100% no. It's not that catchy. It's not the sort of song that everyone's going to like. This is definitely one of those songs where I can tell it would appeal to me more than it would perhaps appeal to other people. I like the emotional chaos of it. I like the fact that she's kind of dealing with quite serious emotions in, using kind of weird metaphorical, like a bit of an allegory going on there, using kind of this bizarre dream state, having like the tongue-in-cheek feeling, the angry bits are actually the rocking bits are kind of swinging, the chilled out bits have got a weird lo-fi thing going on. I kind of like that. I like that approach where you kind of take emotional things and you paint them in a semi-sarcastic, strange light, where you use a bit of personality to reframe things. And that always appeals to me. We all have our own personal preferences. That's something I really like, an artist who can do that. It's great to be raw about your emotions. And don't get me wrong, when I hear stuff like Kofukuron, love the fact that she can like just put that amount of emotion into a song, and that's cool as well. But this kind of thing really impresses me because I'm just like, listening to it and I'm thinking, that's clever. That's clever. And I don't mean clever in a interesting way. I mean clever in a you kind of allowing me to see a certain type of emotion expressed in a way that you wouldn't otherwise think about it. Gives you a different way to frame that kind of thing, and yet still viscerally hits really hard. So I enjoyed this. If you haven't already worked that out from the fact that I've been talking for nearly 20 minutes. But get in the comments, tell me what you think. And I don't know if you can hear it, but I'm really near to the elevator. I'm in the back rooms right now, as you know if you've been following this channel. Nice hotel, and I said give me a quiet room. They put me in a room right next to the elevator, and this hotel is old, so the elevator just has a bell dinging every time anyone selects a floor, so I've got a constant ding outside. So if you've been hearing that, thanks for tolerating it. And until plenty of mosquitoes as well. Until I hopefully see you very soon for the next one of these. For now, ciao.